powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destination all season long at Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. Adam Caplan, Jeff Mosher, they bring you the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam is here for today's edition of Football at 4. What is going on, Adam Caplan? You seem to be in a different room.
Yeah, I am. Actually, I am in another part of my office, and I moved upstairs. Yeah, I moved my Thursday work. Thursday, I often work up in a different room. And that's what I'm doing today. But you see the big clock. You like that, huh?
I do. Well, the power of having video, I can see you, and I'm like, there is no bookshelf behind you today, Adam Caplan.
Correct.
You were in a room with a big clock behind you. All right, well, let's get into it. It's Eagles-Dallas week. Does it have the same buzz in your mind?
It's just different. The good thing is they both have the same record, so they're fighting something. The division's up for grabs, so I think that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's funny, you looked at week one, the Cowboys defense was terrible at Tampa Bay. The next week they played great. They've got all sorts of injuries, and they still play great. It's just and the Eagles are the exact opposite in terms of their offense, where they scored 32 points, only scored 11 the next week. It's the NFL. It's a week-to-week league, and that's kind of what you saw.
I asked you that because obviously Nick Sirianni showed up to his press conference today with a Beat Dallas shirt on. I also heard Jalen Hurts do an interview with Rob Maaddi for this week's Faith on the Field show, and he asked him about what Dallas week means, and his answer was kind of, it's just another opportunity for us to go out there and do, so I'm wondering if, this younger generation of players and coaches, do they get the impact of what Dallas week means to at least the fan base?
That's a good question. I would think they would get it fairly early. The coaches generally, who are obviously older, will get it. The whole thing is fascinating because growing up in the Philadelphia area, it was the most hated sports team. It wasn't even close. The Celtics were probably second. I hated the Celtics growing up. I could not stand them in the green shoes. Bird and McHale, Parrish. You could go through the whole thing. If you grew up in this area, if you're a little bit older, you remember that. It was brutal, with the Celtics being the Sixers so many times until the Sixers got their revenge in the early 80s. But it's always been Dallas. It's the most heated rival. Hockey has theirs, but nothing, and it never changes either. The coaches change, but the spirit of the rivalry does not.
Well, let's get into the spirit of the game, Adam Caplan, Football at 4. I ask about this. I want to get your take on the injuries because you and I did not get a chance. We don't get a chance to talk earlier in the week. So Brandon Graham obviously being out and the impact that will have not only in this game, Adam, how they expect to fill that this season with he's really the heart and soul of not only the defense, this team. If you had any expectations for this team doing something, losing Graham is a huge deflating blow.
It is. It's devastating. There's no way you could replace them. I think Sirianni was right, saying they'll have a committee. They're going to have basically a 3-man rotation at defensive end. We know that. It's the guys that are left. And the rotation was interesting last week because you saw Kerrigan play a lot more than Sweat, where Sweat had more snaps than Barnett in week one. So the three of them will have to deal with it. They've got the option of moving Jernard Avery to defensive end, something they did last year. He's right now their number one strong side linebacker. Teron Johnson, he's probably not ready yet. He can dress, but I just don't know if they want to go in that direction. But it'll be those three main guys, and also they can move Milton Williams to defensive end. But you're right, they're going to miss him versus the run, the ability to move inside and nickel. It's a problem. There's no question about it. It's an issue, and there's no other way to get around it.
Josh Sweat signed that contract. We thought maybe more. He didn't get more than 40%. Is that still the plan, to keep him around 40%, even paying him 80% of snap money?
Well, $13.3 million a year. It's got. I got the contract breakdown as I got my lot this past weekend. Sweat. It's the same structure. Both the Eagles could get out of the contracts, both of them after the 23 season. So they're basically, it's 22 and 23. There's a lot of fully guaranteed money, so they wouldn't want to do that. But after 23, they'll have to, they'll look at it and see how those guys are doing. But Sweat's been an incredible story of development. He had the significant knee injury from high school where his career was almost over. He's persevered here in Philly to having a great training camp, really dominant training camp, and to the point where you do wonder, what's his ceiling? Have we seen the best of Joshua? Can he get better? Then Derek Barnett had a stupid penalty, which has been the story of his career here. Occasionally he does this. Very inconsistent player who's on his fifth-year option. And Kerrigan, I don't think they really looked at playing as much as they did last week, but with Graham out, they did that. It's going to be fascinating to see what they do with him going forward.
Adam Caplan's with us. The other injury, obviously, was Brandon Brooks. Now, the understanding is that he'll go in the injured reserve, but he will be able to come back. We will see if that happens. Today, they pretty much made it official that it will be Landon Dickerson. They did have some options there. Andrew was on Tuesday. He felt they should go with Herbig in the short term until Dickerson kind of gets going. They like Dickerson. Do you think Dickerson was the right move here? And do we expect Brandon Brooks to be out a long period of time, 3-4 weeks? This is a tough one because with the pec, you can't really lift to get your strength back. So a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see him back until late October, early November. It's pectoral strains. Remember, last summer, Javon Hargrave had it. He couldn't do anything for 6 weeks. I would expect it to be at least 6 weeks. I can't see him coming back. It's one thing if you were a receiver where you don't have to raise your arms as much. With the linemen, they have extend. You can't come back. So I would not expect to see him until late next month, probably early November. The reason why they're going with Dickerson is very simple. He was drafted to eventually be a starter. He's the future of he and Seumalo are part of the future at their offensive line, and the future is now. They're willing to take the rustiness, and clearly Dickerson was rusty. He was just thrown in there. He got some first-team reps, I think it was last Wednesday, when Brooks was either limited or didn't practice. I don't have the injury report in front of me, but I know he was limited last week, and that's when Dickerson, he got the first-team reps. So they just want to get him ready. And he's just a guy, who had no offseason, no preseason. He was rehabbing the whole time. He's only really been practicing for about 3 weeks, less than that right now. So he gets the reps, I get it, and he's the future, and the future is now.
Yeah, and obviously people wonder, why do you draft this guy in the second round? This is why, because you had injuries on that offensive line last year, and they had to go that route, although they do seemingly have some options. They just brought the kid in from Buffalo. We mentioned Herbig. They have Driscoll. I feel like, Adam, this team can withstand an injury to one guy on the line. If what happened last year is when you start to get into trouble where you're moving guys because he got hurt, so you're moving him from there and him to go there. One guy I feel like the line should be able to handle, no?
Yeah, I think they'll be okay there. Oh, by the way, the injury report just came out. Here's who did not practice. Fletcher Cox with an illness. He'll be fine. He'll play. Jason Kelsey will play. He also has a foot injury, but he'll play. Hassan Ridgway with an illness. Davion Taylor with that calf. Remember, he re-injured it, scar tissue. Limited. Rodney McLeod with a knee. I don't know that he plays this week. Until he gets full practice in, I don't think he'll play, but we'll see what he does tomorrow and Saturday because they played Monday night. Miles Sanders now has a new injury. It's a chest injury. Previously had an ankle injury. He'll play. Latavius Whiteside with that lingering ankle injury. So those are the injuries for the Eagles.
Okay, Adam, let's look at the matchup a little bit here. Obviously, the offense, the structure of the offense that we see, a lot on the outside, a lot of shots down the field in game 2. In week 1, a lot of underneath. They didn't take a lot of shots, so it was a completely other end of the spectrum last week. So much different approach the last game. So you guys did a great podcast talking to some sources after watching the tape about what they were trying to accomplish in game 2.
Yeah, in fact, that was really the focus. I'll give you one of the nuggets of the like 20 of them that we had. It was really strange. As one source told us, couldn't quite figure out what Sirianni was trying to do as a play caller. Here's the quote. Not sure what obviously Sirianni, was trying to accomplish in this game. Very random play selection design did not help the players. End quote. Again, very few in-breaking routes. Oh, we should mention we have the great Mark Schlereth, the great former Denver Bronco multi-Super Bowl winner.
Who called the game
Washington
on Sunday.
In Denver. Mark called the game with Fox with Adam Amin, and he was great. And Mark gave his version of kind of what he saw. He didn't disagree if you hear what he said. It's a great interview for about 40 minutes, and we'll have Mark on once again. And probably anytime he calls an Eagles game, we're going to have him on. He's a good friend of ours. I worked with him at ESPN, got to know him pretty well. Used to have breakfast with him in Bristol. Great guy, so smart. He's an intellectual when it comes to football, and I know a lot of us complain about where were the inside throws, and he gave his version of it, what he thought. Fred Warner, the linebacker for the Niners, one of the best linebackers in football, had something to do with it. But overall, I think Sirianni, if he's being honest with himself, did not have a good game. Clearly did not use the personnel well enough. It wasn't just that Jalen Hurts was not accurate. Hurts missed some throws, sure, but I don't think – you know last week how everything was quick, get it out of his hands, get him accurate. Well, it worked, and Hurts executed extremely well. This game – it's kind of like they were like, we're coming in and we're throwing the ball. We don't care what anyone thinks. We're throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
7 shot plays, and it didn't work other than the beautiful 91-yard pass. Might have been one of the best shot plays I've seen an Eagle quarterback throw in years. It was beautiful. Catch and run for 91 yards. It was absolutely awesome, but unfortunately, every other shot play did not work.
I feel, and today Sirianni did say, look, I drug myself through the mud a lot this week in self-evaluating my game. I almost felt like Sirianni said, well, you didn't see us in the preseason. In week 1, we did a lot of underneath. So let's try to do something you haven't seen on tape this week. And once it didn't work, didn't make the adjustment to get off of it, just kept trying.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great point, Mike. That's exactly what happened. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's all about adjusting. And let's not forget, first-time defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, who's done a nice job but isn't blitzing. I know people aren't happy about that. We could also talk about that. Offensively, this is Sirianni's second game, right, in a regular season calling plays. They ran a vanilla offense, about as vanilla offensively and defensively as it gets in the preseason. They literally did nothing on both sides of the football in the preseason, and that's what you're supposed to do. The thing that I don't understand, we talked about this briefly on this show, but I could explain it a little bit more. The lack of use of the running backs in the pass game is just befuddling. Even Sirianni said it sometime in August. One of the press conferences in the media, I forget who asked about it. He goes, guys, it's not breaking news. It's not a secret. We're going to get our backs involved in the pass game a lot. Well, not this game, and I don't have an answer for it. You can't just say it was coverage. I just thought Sirianni took a step back as a play caller. He's just got to read that.
I agree. I also, and get your opinion on this, I think Shane Steichen alluded to it yesterday. I didn't hear all of Sirianni today, but the tight ends, I mean, they only have 11 targets in 2 games. Your money is invested there. You have very young wide receivers. Why not go with the dependable guys in a game against, the 49ers who will fight you? I was really befuddled why Goddard and Ertz have not been a bigger part.
Yeah, Mike, and I thought you made a really good point about adjusting, because I do not think Sirianni did a good job. A veteran play caller, and this is why I suggested on our show this week, I think it was, the one that dropped yesterday morning, that Sirianni should have hired a senior offensive assistant. We were told that he was looking at it, but ultimately decided not to hire anyone. I think that was a mistake. I think he needs someone who's done it before, who's called plays for several years, not just Steichen, who called them for 1 year and did a nice job with the Chargers. I think he needs a veteran guy. Whether it's Ken Wisenon or someone who's a friend of his, someone who he's coached with before, who's called plays for several years. And I just really believe that would help him. I just don't think he adjusted very well to what the Niners were doing on defense.
Let's go to the defense. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Make sure you guys are always listening. And the pregame show is going to be on Monday night at 5 o'clock with the full crew on YouTube. For Eagles and Cowboys. I think I got that right. Correct, Adam?
Correct.
5 o'clock Monday. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be back on. We got everything straightened out. We cannot wait to do that pregame. We got so much information we're going to drop in that show. Looking forward to it.
All right. So in this week's game, it's going to be very interesting because this is the most weapons they're going to face, right? So you take a look at you mentioned the blitzing. They have not blitzed a whole heck of a lot. Well, Mondays, I'd get the calls and the texts every week. Schwartz never blitz. Jonathan Gannon's not blitzing much either. So what is he doing that teams, they've only given up 23 points in 2 games, but what are you seeing from their defense?
And the run defense was outstanding last week. They played the Niners cutback zones wide and inside extremely well. They did a great job. Was told by one personal guy that I trust that the coverage on the back end, their tight zone coverage, they're doing a lot of disguise, which is making the quarterbacks a little bit hesitant to know where to go with a football. But because they're not blitzing, they're not making them get rid of the ball faster. That is the reason why they're not creating the turnovers that we were expecting. I mean, no turnovers through 2 games. It's only 2 games out of 17, but it's a little bit disappointing. But they're doing what we were told in the preseason is they would disguise. But the things that they're not doing is they're not blitzing. We didn't have any. We thought they would blitz a little bit, but they're just not. They're down bottom 3 in blitz percentage, which is a little bit surprising. But those will come. They're going to have to. Although Michael Gallup, the best deep threat for the Cowboys, is out for several weeks after groin surgery. I think it's groin surgery, but nevertheless, he's out for a while. The problem is that they're good at tight end. Their offensive line is really good. Tony Pollard, you're going to see him, the backup, maybe the NFL's best backup running back, who's terrific. He's explosive. They'll use him out of the backfield. Zeke, is back. He's healthy. And their line is, they got a problem at right tackle, though the guy who filled in for him played really well. I think it was Terrence Steele. You're right. This is, to me, the best offense that they face out of 3 games.
Hey, linebackers, if we were having this conversation in 2020, the linebackers were a major problem. They gave up 15 catches to Kittle last week. The linebackers through a couple weeks seem like they have not been an issue so far, so this could be an interesting matchup for them.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be challenging. They play with really good discipline. First half of the first game against Atlanta, they didn't play very well, but then they adjusted. I mean, I don't know what else to say. The Gannon got it going on, man. Their discipline was incredible. And give Nick Rollis, the young 27-year-old linebacker coach, credit. He did a great job of getting these guys prepared. Because that was the one thing, we haven't really talked about this before, but that was one issue we had coming into the season is about how he would do as a linebackers coach. And I got to say that he's doing real well so far.
All right. And then obviously the corners who kept everything in front of them so far. They haven't given up that big play. We haven't seen that big home run hit. But if a team can hit one, I mean, we'll see what Cooper, if he's going to play. CD, Lamb, obviously. So, and you mentioned Gallup being out. That helped. But this is a week where you would expect Dallas to take some shots.
Yeah, they will. I'm sure they will if they can protect, and that's the key. And I will be interested to see if they blitz or not.
Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Check out the new one, dropped this morning. And, of course, the pregame show, Inside the Birds, with the whole crew, Monday night, 5 o'clock. Eagles, Cowboys. Week 3, the Eagles don't have a division game until November 28th. So this is the one and only division game they have for quite some time. They play Dallas. And, of course, you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Adam. Good to see you, man.
Thank you.
Adam Caplan and Football at 4 is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at the Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash.